Hello, my name is Jenny and today I'm going to show you how to bake some carrot buns. We're going to follow a very old recipe. The recipe was very popular during the Second World War, so it's about 75 or 80 years old. I work in a museum which is called the Northern Ireland War Memorial, and we tell the story of Northern Ireland during the Second World War. And there's a very important anniversary coming up soon. On the 8th of May, it'll be exactly 75 years since the war in Europe ended. And when that day came, people celebrated all over Northern Ireland. Thousands of people gathered in Belfast around Belfast City Hall. They hugged and they danced and they cheered as they heard the news from Winston Churchill at 3 p.m. on the loudspeakers outside the City Hall that we had victory, we had peace. Some people attended street parties. They pulled tables into the streets where they lived and they covered the tables with feasts of sandwiches and buns and cakes and all sorts of sweet treats. And people had a lot to celebrate. And we've seen photographs of children attending those parties dressed up in fancy dress. So people had a lot to celebrate and food was a really important part of that. But of course, buying food was different during the war. You may have heard that food was rationed back then. In 1940, the government introduced rationing to make sure that there would be enough food for everybody. So I'm going to show you exactly what food you were allowed for one person for 1 week. So first of all, fruit and veg was not rationed. So that meant you could eat as much of that as possible, and the government encouraged people to eat as much fruit and veg as they could. And they also encouraged people to dig for victory, grow their own carrots, apples, potatoes, turnips at home, and that would make sure they had lots of food on the table. And when VE Day happened in May 1945, it was spring, summertime, so there was lots of fruit and veg available. Meat was rationed, cheese was rationed to 3 ounces per week, lard, which is a cooking fat, 2 ounces per week, butter, 2 ounces per week, this is per person. Margarine, you were allowed 4 ounces of margarine, which is very useful for baking. We'll be using it today in our carrot buns. You were allowed 2 ounces of tea. Oh, very sadly, you were only allowed 2 ounces of sweets, so that's about 8 jelly babies for the week. And you were allowed 1 egg a week, and that's if you were lucky. That's if your shopkeeper sold fresh eggs. If not, you might have had to buy a tin of dried eggs. They became very popular during the war. These tins took up less space on ships, so it was very sensible to import them and use them. You either got a fresh egg a week or 1 tin of dried eggs for the month, and we'll be baking with dried eggs today. Okay, here's what you need for your carrot buns. First of all, you'll need 8 ounces of self-raising flour. You can use plain flour with a little bit of baking powder instead. You need caster sugar. Mine's golden, but it doesn't matter what colour yours is. And sultanas if you like them. You will need 3 ounces of margarine. You will need a little bit of milk to mix it all together with. And you'll need 1 egg. If you're brave, you can use some dried eggs like me. I can assure you my dried eggs aren't 75 years old. I was able to order them online, but I decided to get them because I wanted to see what that tastes like. But maybe you'll just want to use a normal egg because you won't have dried eggs in the cupboard. And then of course the star of this recipe, carrots. And carrots were added to cakes and cookies and buns and puddings for a very good reason during the war. Carrots are very sweet, they have a lot of natural sugars in them, so they added to the sweetness of dishes, which meant you didn't have to use as much of your precious sugar, which was rationed during the war. And they also added a certain amount of moisture, and that was good because then you didn't have to add as much margarine or lard or fat to your recipes. So carrots were really, really useful. Potatoes and beetroots and things like that, they were added to cakes as well. So it's really interesting looking at wartime recipes. You will also need 2 baking trays, a grater and a vegetable peeler, a knife, a wooden spoon, a tablespoon, a set of kitchen scales, and you'll remember when I was talking about all these foods, they're all measured in ounces, which sounds strange to us. We now measure things in grams. So you'll have to ask an adult to help you convert it into grams, or if you're lucky, your kitchen scale will actually measure both grams and ounces, so that'll be easy. You'll need a small bowl, a baking bowl, and a sieve. So before we get baking, let's wash our hands. Okay, we're going to do the messy parts first, and you're going to need 2 baking trays. you're going to need a vegetable peeler and you're going to need a grater as well for these parts. So we're going to start with our baking trays. We're going to take a little piece of margarine and we're going to rub the margarine all over the baking tray, and that will make sure that our carrot buns don't stick when they're put in the oven. And do that on 2 baking trays. We need 2, we're making 12 buns altogether. So I now have 2 baking trays ready for the carrot buns when they're ready. And now we need to prepare our carrots. So what we're going to do is we're going to wash them in the sink first. Then we're going to peel them, taking off all the skin. And then we're going to grate them. Be careful when you're peeling, go nice and slow, mind your fingers, maybe ask an adult to help. So that's the skin removed. We can put all of those in our compost bins. And now we're going to grate them. So take your grater and slide the carrot along the top, along the ridges to make it into grated carrot. Now if we look inside, we have lots of grated carrot for our recipe. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to weigh our flour. So we need 8 ounces of flour. So I'm going to pop it into my kitchen scale till I get to 8 ounces. 8 ounces is just a little bit more than 200 grams. Okay, that's my flour. And then we're going to sieve it into the large baking bowl. The next step is weighing the margarine, so we need 3 ounces of margarine. People used to complain during the war that when they ran out of butter they had to use margarine to butter their toast and their sandwiches. Margarine didn't taste as nice, but it was very useful for baking. So I'm going to guess that's maybe about 3 ounces. I'll set it on the scale and see. I need, yeah, that's about right, it's about 3 ounces. And now I'm going to drop it into the butter, I'm going to tear it into little lumps. And then I'm going to rub it into the flour with my fingertips to make what looks like breadcrumbs. And it's important to use your fingertips, not the palms of your hands. Your fingertips aren't as warm as the palms of your hands, so they won't melt the butter. We don't want it melted, we just want it made into little breadcrumbs with the flour. Okay, now that that looks like breadcrumbs, we're ready to weigh the sugar. But first I'll wash my hands. Okay, so we need 3 ounces of sugar. About 3 ounces. It's not really very much sugar, but the carrots add a lot of sweetness, so you don't need a huge amount of sugar. And we're going to add that to our flour and margarine mixture. Now we're going to add sultanas, 2 tablespoons of sultanas. If you don't like sultanas, you can leave those out, but I think they add extra sweetness. They're really tasty in carrot buns. Now it's time to make our dried egg into a real egg again. So you can use a normal egg, and all you have to do is crack it open into a little bowl, whisk it up a little bit and then add it to your baking bowl. I have to do something different with my dried eggs. I have to take a tablespoon of dried egg powder, a level tablespoon, that's pretty level, and then I have to add 2 tablespoons of milk. And I have to mix it together until it looks a little bit like a real egg again. Go, just a few lumps, but I'm sure it will taste fine. And I'm going to add that into my baking bowl. And now I'm going to add the carrots. So we need 4 tablespoons of grated carrots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they make it look wonderfully colourful. Now we're going to mix that all together really well. all mixed up, lovely and colourful, and now we're going to add some milk to make it sticky. So just add a little at first and mix it and see how it looks. I think I need a little tiny bit more. There we go, lovely. Now it's time to turn the oven on. So ask an adult to preheat the oven for you at 200 degrees. Okay, so now it's time to put our mixture onto the baking trays to bake. We're going to make 12 buns in total, so we're going to put 6 on each tray, and we have to space them out evenly because they melt and get a little bit bigger as they cook. So I'm going to spoon 6 lumps onto this tray and 6 lumps onto the other tray, trying to space them apart. There we go, they're ready to go in the oven for 12 to 14 minutes at 200 degrees, and you'll know they're ready because they'll be nice and golden on top. So let's pop them in the oven. As you can see, they're nice and golden in colour, and I can tell you that they smell amazing. They smell really, really sweet and really lovely. The smell has just filled the kitchen. So I'm going to try one and see what it's like, see if it tastes good. Lovely, if I do say so myself, they're nice. You can't taste the dried eggs at all. They're nice and sweet, nice and soft, a little bit like a scone, but also a bit like a cake, but really, really tasty, and the carrots have made them nice and moist and really nice and sweet. So I hope that that has encouraged you to bake some carrot buns, and if you're interested in learning some other wartime recipes and learning more about VE Day 75 years ago, visit our website 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗿𝗺𝗺, where you'll find lots more recipes from our cookbook. You'll find lots of activities for VE Day, such as making your own bunting, making your own paper chains, such as making your own party hat, making your own Dig for Victory poster. There's lots of interesting things you can do with your family at home as you celebrate VE Day in your house or in your garden. Thanks for watching. Bye.